What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023 and 2024. Now, as always, if you end up wanting to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So to start off, my first reason why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023 is the storage. Now with this phone, we are getting 128GB of internal storage. And in general, although if you're really a power user and you're putting a ton of apps and photos and videos and stuff like that on your phone, especially maybe something like 4K videos that tend to take up a lot more space, then sure, you might want to get more storage than this. But for the average user, even at this point in 2024, I do think 128GB is still a pretty good amount of storage. So I feel like for most people looking for a phone like this that's maybe a bit higher end than your average mid-range phone, but still not quite a flagship phone, in this kind of market, I do think 128GB is still going to be plenty of space. Now keep in mind, at some point in another video about this phone, I did mention that this phone had another variant that had 256GB, but unfortunately I was wrong. That is the Razr Plus. The regular Razr 2023 does only have 128GB, and as far as I know, there's no other variant that has more storage. But again, I feel like in general, this is probably going to be enough for most people, so more likely than not, storage won't be an issue. But also keep in mind, unfortunately, this phone does not have microSD card expansion, which I personally feel like with this much internal storage, it's not really that big a deal. But if you are looking for a phone that does have microSD card expansion, then you will of course want to get something else. But again, I feel like it's not really that big a deal considering there's stuff like Google Drive, for example. So if you have a bunch of photos and videos, you can offload things onto that. But of course, again, microSD card expansion does have its advantages, so if that is important to you, then this might not be the phone for you. Now my second reason why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023 is the processor. Now with this phone, we are getting 8GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 processor. So definitely a great processor here, and in my experience, despite not being quite flagship level, I mean, it's pretty close. So regardless, it is definitely a fast phone, and for most people, for pretty much anything you might be using it for, you will get a pretty good experience. Just keep in mind, if you're doing stuff like really high performance mobile gaming with the graphics turned all the way up, or maybe video editing or something like that, I still think it's going to be perfectly fine. I mean, in my experience, I haven't done a ton of gaming on it, but I have used phones with similar performance and I've never had any issues. So I do think it'll still be perfectly fine, but compared to a much higher end device like, say, a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra or an iPhone 15 Pro Max, this phone is definitely not going to be anywhere near that level. But compared to your average mid-range phone, the performance we're getting with the Razr will be at least a little better. Now I did run a benchmark test on this phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then comparing your results to these, and that'll give you a better idea of where this phone stands performance wise compared to your current device. Because of course, depending on what you're coming from, it may or may not actually be faster. But again, I feel like compared to your typical mid-range phone, of course depending on the specific phone in question, the Razr will be at least a little bit faster. Now if it's something like a Moto G Stylus 5G 2023 or a Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, then it might not be that much faster. But if you have something maybe a bit lower end, then chances are the Razr 2023 will still be a pretty good upgrade. Now my third reason why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023 is the display. Now with this phone, we're getting a really large 6.9-inch 144Hz POLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 413, in a 22:9 aspect ratio. So in pretty much every way, the display is really good here. At 6.9 inches, of course, it is a huge display. So if you're consuming a lot of content, whether you're reading, watching videos, playing games, pretty much anything, you will get a really nice experience here. And not only this, but we're also getting really good image quality with, again, a 144Hz refresh rate. Compared to your standard 60Hz display, the movement on the screen is going to be a bit faster and smoother, and this will make the phone feel a bit more premium. With the POLED display, things are really bright, the colors look really nice, and the viewing angles are really good too. So if you're maybe outside in the sun, for example, or in any kind of bright area, compared to something like an IPS LCD, this display will be a lot easier to see. So in general, if you're looking for a phone that's not too expensive, but still has a nice premium display that's really good for consuming content, then I would say the Razr 2023 is definitely worth considering. And now this does bring me to my fourth reason, and that is the design. Now probably the main drawback here of having a really large display like this is putting a 6.9-inch phone in your pocket is probably not always going to be the most convenient thing. So usually a phone like this does tend to be a bit more bulky and sometimes just a bit more uncomfortable to carry around. But with the Razr 2023, we actually are getting a flippable design, so when you're consuming content, doing whatever with it, things are going to be really large and easy to see, and overall you will get a good experience. But when you want to put it in your pocket or store it or whatever you're doing, all you have to do is fold it up, and this of course is quite a bit smaller than pretty much any phone that exists. So if you want to put it in your pocket, it's going to be nice and compact, and then of course when you're ready to use it, you can take it right back out and you're good to go. So definitely a really great design here. And not only this, but you would think that having a flippable design would make the phone feel a bit more flimsy and less durable. But with the Razr, sure, compared to other phones, it might not be the best, but in general for what it is, it's really not bad. So you do get that flexibility of having this design, but at the same time, you won't have to worry about the phone just randomly breaking in half or anything. And in addition to this, the build quality in general does feel pretty solid. We got a nice aluminum frame here and a kind of synthetic leather on the back that does feel pretty nice. And the phone also does have a decent amount of weight to it. So in general, if you're looking for a phone that not only has a more unique, flexible kind of design, but also great build quality and more premium materials, then I do think this phone will be a great choice for you. And then finally, my fifth reason why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023 is the camera. Now with this phone, up front, we got a nice looking hole punch design for the selfie camera. This camera is 32 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a dual camera with a 64 megapixel main camera and a 13 megapixel ultra wide camera. And keep in mind, the ultra wide camera does also double as a macro camera, which if you've seen any mid-range Motorola phone that was released maybe 2022 or later, this is not going to be new to you. I feel like a lot of them have the same kind of design, but pretty cool, and we definitely get a good amount of features here. And in addition to this, for video, with this phone we do have a max recording quality of 4K at 30 frames per second in both the rear and front cameras. So if you're recording a lot of videos, maybe you want that higher quality for something like YouTube for example, then this phone will be a pretty decent option. And not only are we getting some good features here, but I do think the photo quality is really good too. Now, of course, if you compare this to like a $1,500 flagship phone, it might not be quite as good, but in general, I do think for the average user, the photo quality with this phone will be good enough for pretty much anything you might be doing. To give you an idea of what it can do, here's some pictures taken with the Razr 2023, and again, I do think the photo quality is really good, and for most people, you're not going to be disappointed. So no matter what you're doing, if it's more casual things like sending photos to friends and family, or using something like Snapchat where the photo quality is really not that important, or if you're actually doing something more along the lines of content creation, regardless, I do think most people will be pretty happy with this camera. But those were 5 reasons why you should buy the Motorola Razr 2023. In general, I feel like for what it is, it's maybe not the most impressive phone in the world, especially considering it's not super cheap, going at around $499 factory unlocked, and I think that was on sale too. Now, this phone was, I think, released in June of 2023, and considering it's January of 2024, I imagine the prices are going to go down pretty fast, especially when the successor is inevitably released. So by the time you're watching this, the phone could be a lot more affordable, and that of course is going to be a completely different conversation. But overall, I feel like compared to lots of other phones around this general price, like the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G for example, the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE, or even the S21 FE, and then stuff like the OnePlus Nord N30 5G. Now, I've done videos about all those phones on this channel, and I haven't directly compared them to this phone yet, or maybe I haven't decided what I'm releasing first, but off the top of my head, I don't know which one is actually better. But in general, the point is, although this phone is actually a really good device by itself, it does have some drawbacks, which I will be going over in a separate video. And there are lots of other options out there. But in general, I do think if you're looking for a phone that may not necessarily be the cheapest phone you can get, but is still quite a bit more affordable than your typical flagship phone, while still having some of the more premium features like wireless charging, NFC, a really high quality camera, a fast processor, and overall a really nice premium design, I do think in that case, the Razr 2023 is definitely worth considering. Now once again, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, I will see you in the next video.